The early morning sun, a gentle painter, brushed the forest with golden light. Ethan, a boy with a heart full of adventure, stepped onto the winding path. Today was his day to explore, just him and the whispering trees. He loved the quiet. Each crunch of leaves under his sneakers was a little drumbeat in the peaceful silence. The air smelled of damp earth and fresh pine, a smell that always made him feel happy and free. He breathed in deeply, filling his lungs with the crisp morning air. Above him, the sky was a clear, wide blue, dotted with fluffy white clouds that looked like giant cotton balls. The sunbeams, like long, warm fingers, stretched through the gaps in the tall trees, dancing on the forest floor. Ethan watched a tiny ladybug crawl slowly up a blade of grass, its bright red shell a cheerful splash of color. He smiled. This was what he loved most about hiking alone, these small, perfect moments that no one else saw. The trail was narrow in places, bordered by ferns that brushed against his legs as he walked. He passed a babbling brook, its water sparkling like 1,000 tiny diamonds in the sunlight. He stopped for a moment, listening to the gentle gurgle of the water over smooth stones. A small bird, with feathers of blue and yellow, landed on a branch nearby and chirped a cheerful song. Ethan felt a lightness in his chest, a pure joy that only nature seemed to bring out in him. He had packed a small backpack with water and a snack, ready for a long walk. He knew this trail well, or so he thought. Today, he wanted to go a little further to see what lay beyond the familiar turns. The sun felt good on his face, warming his skin just enough to feel comfortable. He wasn't rushing. He simply enjoyed each step, each breath, each new sight. The sounds of the forest were a soft lullaby, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a woodpecker, the gentle hum of insects. It was a perfect beginning to what he hoped would be a perfect day. He felt strong and happy, ready for whatever adventures the trail might bring. As the morning turned into late morning, the sun climbed higher in the sky. Its gentle touch from before now felt stronger, more direct. The golden light began to change, growing brighter and hotter, pushing away the cool shadows that had danced on the path. Ethan had been walking for a good while, and the peaceful quiet of the early hike was slowly replaced by a growing warmth. He felt the sun on his shoulders, then on his head, and a bead of sweat trickled down his temple. He took another sip from his water bottle, but it wasn't as cool as it had been. The air, once crisp and fresh, now felt thick and heavy. The sounds of the forest seemed to quiet down, as if even the birds were seeking shade. Ethan noticed the leaves on the trees no longer looked as bright. They seemed a little dull, almost sleepy under the intense glare. His steps, which had been light and bouncy, now felt a little heavier. He knew he was getting tired. His legs, usually full of energy, were starting to ache a little. A fuzzy feeling began to tickle the edges of his mind. He squinted up at the sky, where the sun was now a brilliant, almost blinding disk. There were fewer clouds, and the blue seemed to deepen to a hot, endless color. He wiped his brow with the back of his hand, feeling the stickiness of sweat. Just a little further, he told himself, even though his body was whispering for him to stop. He wanted to reach that special spot he'd heard about, a hidden waterfall rumored to be just beyond the next ridge. The idea of cool, rushing water spurred him on. He pushed past a thick bush, its leaves feeling warm to the touch. The path ahead seemed to stretch on and on, shimmering slightly in the heat. His breath started to come a little faster. He could feel his heart thumping a steady rhythm against his ribs. The beautiful sights he had enjoyed earlier now seemed harder to notice. He was focused on putting one foot in front of the other, each step an effort. The quiet of the forest, once comforting, now felt a little too still, a little too hot. He was very hot and very tired, but the thought of that waterfall kept him moving, even as his body begged for a rest. Ethan kept walking, pushing himself with every step. The thought of the cool waterfall was like a mirage in the hot air, just out of reach. He told himself, almost there, but his voice felt weak, even to his own ears. The path seemed to tilt and sway a little, and the trees around him started to blur at the edges. His head felt heavy, like a big hot rock. The air grew thicker, making it hard to take a full breath. Each gulp felt like it was filled with warm cotton. His skin was sticky with sweat, and his clothes felt heavy and damp. He could feel his heart beating faster and faster, a drum solo in his chest that felt out of control. A dull ache began to throb behind his eyes, making him blink hard. Then a strange, wobbly feeling started in his legs. They felt like jelly, ready to give out. He tried to focus on a tall pine tree just ahead, but seemed to spin. The sunlight, once a comforting warmth, now felt like a giant hand pressing down on him, pushing him into the hot ground. Everything around him, the greens of the leaves, the browns of the dirt, began to swim together in a dizzy mess. He stumbled, catching himself on a rough tree trunk. The bark felt hot and rough against his sweaty palm. He closed his eyes for a moment, hoping the spinning would stop. When he opened them again, the world still felt unsteady. His stomach churned, and a wave of sickness washed over him. He knew, deep down, that he couldn't take another step. His body had had enough. He sank to the ground, not caring about the dirt or the small stones. He just needed to stop. The dizziness made the world tilt sideways. He leaned back against the tree, trying to make himself small, to disappear from the harsh glare of the sun. He felt weak, much weaker than he had ever felt on a hike before. The dream of the waterfall faded, replaced by the urgent need for shade, for coolness, for anything to make the spinning stop. He closed his eyes again, hoping that when he opened them, the world would be still. He needed help. Not far from where Ethan slumped against the tree, a different kind of quiet settled. Noah, a park volunteer, walked along a parallel path, his steps steady and unhurried. Unlike Ethan, Noah wasn't seeking adventure for himself today. He wore a light green vest with a park logo, and a wide-brimmed hat kept the strong sun off his face. His eyes, kind and watchful, scanned the trails and the edges of the forest. Noah knew these woods like the back of his hand. He had spent countless hours here, guiding visitors, fixing paths, and simply being present. He loved the forest, but he also respected its power, especially on a day like today when the sun was beating down so fiercely. He carried a bigger backpack than most hikers, filled with useful things, extra water, a first aid kit, and a small two-way radio. His job was to make sure everyone enjoyed the park safely. He had already helped a family find their lost dog and pointed a group of birdwatchers toward a rare nest. Now, as the heat grew, he was especially alert. He knew how quickly a beautiful day could turn tricky if hikers weren't careful. He listened for unusual sounds, a cry for help, or perhaps just a person struggling. The quiet of the midday forest could sometimes hide trouble. Noah paused at a small clearing, taking a long drink from his own water bottle. He looked around, his gaze sweeping over the sun-drenched path. He noticed how the light seemed to shimmer off the ground, a sign of the intense heat. His park radio crackled softly with a weather update. High heat warning in effect until evening. He nodded to himself. He already felt it. With a sigh, he adjusted his backpack and continued his patrol. He was heading toward a section of the trail known for its steep climbs, where people often pushed themselves too hard. He hummed a soft tune, a habit he had when he was thinking. His purpose was clear: to be a helpful hand, a friendly face, and a guardian of the trails. He walked with a gentle rhythm, his eyes missing nothing, especially any sign that someone might be in need. Noah rounded a bend in the trail, his experienced eyes sweeping the path ahead. He was still humming his quiet tune when something caught his attention. Off to the side, under a smaller tree that offered little shade, sat a figure. The way the person was slumped, leaning against the trunk, looked wrong. It wasn't the relaxed posture of someone enjoying a rest. This person seemed to be struggling. His humming stopped. Noah changed his direction, leaving the main path and stepping carefully over roots and rocks towards the figure. As he got closer, he could see it was a young man, Ethan, with his head tilted back, eyes closed. His face was flushed red, and his breath came in short, quick gasps. Even from a few feet away, Noah could sense the heat radiating from him. This was exactly what he had been looking out for. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle the boy. "Hello there," Noah said, his voice calm and gentle, just loud enough to be heard. "Are you doing okay?" Ethan's eyes fluttered open slowly, squinting against the bright light that still managed to reach him. He looked confused, then a little scared. His gaze landed on Noah's green vest and hat, then on Noah's kind, concerned face. He tried to speak, but only a dry, raspy sound came out. He swallowed hard. Noah knelt down a little distance away, careful not to get too close too fast. He kept his voice soft and friendly. "You look a little warm," he said, stating the obvious gently. "Are you feeling all right?" "My name is Noah. I'm a park volunteer. I'm here to help." Ethan managed a weak shake of his head. "Hot," he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. "Dizzy." Noah nodded, his expression serious but reassuring. He could see the tremor in Ethan's hands, the way his skin looked too pale in some spots and too red in others. "I can see that," Noah replied, his tone full of understanding. "It's a very hot day to be out on the trail. Have you had enough water?" He gestured towards Ethan's small backpack, which lay beside him. Ethan just gave a small nod, too tired to fully answer. Noah knew he needed to act quickly and calmly. This boy was definitely in trouble. Noah looked around. The small tree Ethan was leaning against offered very little protection from the scorching sun. Just a short distance away, however, stood a grand oak, its wide branches spreading like a giant umbrella, casting a deep, inviting shadow over a patch of soft grass. "All right, Ethan," Noah said, his voice firm but still gentle. "You're going to feel much better if we get you into some real shade. See that big oak tree over there?" He pointed with his chin. "We need to get you under that tree right away." Ethan tried to look, but his head felt too heavy to turn properly. He just gave a small grunt. "Don't worry," Noah continued, seeing Ethan struggle. "I'll help you. Just lean on me." He carefully moved closer, offering a strong arm. Ethan, feeling too weak to argue, slowly pushed himself up, leaning heavily on Noah. Each step was slow and wobbly, but with Noah's steady support, they shuffled the short distance to the big oak tree. The moment Ethan was fully in the shade, a sigh of relief escaped him. The air felt instantly cooler, and the intense glare of the sun was gone. He sank down onto the cool grass, leaning back against the thick, rough trunk of the oak. It felt like a small miracle. Noah, moving quickly and calmly, unzipped his large backpack. He pulled out a fresh, unopened bottle of water. "Here," he said, twisting the cap off. "Take small sips. Don't drink it too fast." Ethan took the bottle with shaking hands and brought it to his lips. The cool water was like a heavenly balm, soothing his dry throat. He took a few small sips, then paused, feeling a tiny bit of strength return. Next, Noah pulled out a clean cloth and a small spray bottle of water. He misted the cloth until it was damp and cool. "This will help," he said, gently folding the cloth and placing it on Ethan's forehead. The cool, damp cloth felt amazing against Ethan's burning skin. He closed his eyes, letting out another deep sigh. The dizziness began to lessen, replaced by a simple, profound gratitude. Noah sat down a little ways from him, watching him carefully, a quiet guardian in the deep shade. The world was still spinning a little, but the cool cloth and the kind presence of the stranger made it feel like everything would be okay. With the cool cloth on his forehead and the cool water slowly making its way through his body, Ethan felt a wonderful change. The terrible spinning in his head began to slow, then finally stopped. The tightness in his chest eased, and his breathing became smoother. It was as if a heavy blanket of heat had been lifted from him, leaving him feeling lighter and much more at peace. He opened his eyes again, this time without the painful squint. The world was steady. The big oak tree's leaves made a soft, rustling sound above him, a gentle whisper in the breeze. He looked at Noah, who was still sitting nearby, watching him with calm, patient eyes. Noah's presence was like a cool anchor in the stormy sea Ethan had just been through. "Thank you," Ethan whispered, his voice still a little hoarse, but much stronger than before. "Thank you so much, Noah. I really needed that." He tried to sit up a little straighter, feeling a bit shy about being found in such a weak state. Noah offered a small, kind smile. You're very welcome, Ethan. That's what I'm here for. It's easy to get caught out by the sun on a day like this, especially when you're enjoying a hike. He didn't make Ethan feel silly or careless, just understood. Ethan felt a surprising warmth spread through him, not from the sun, but from Noah's gentle words and actions. He was a stranger, yet he had shown such immediate and genuine care. Ethan had been alone, pushing himself too hard, and feeling completely helpless. Now, here was Noah, a friendly face who had appeared just when he needed him most. It was a kind of help he hadn't expected, and it touched him deeply. I didn't think anyone would find me, Ethan admitted, looking down at his hands. He felt a little embarrassed by how close he had come to real trouble. That's why we have park volunteers, Noah said softly. To keep an eye out. Sometimes a little rest and some water are all you need. How are you feeling now? Any more dizziness? Ethan shook his head slowly. No, much better. Really? Thank you, Noah. I don't know what I would have done. The surprise of such pure, unasked for kindness from a stranger was a powerful feeling, making him realize he wasn't as alone as he thought. As Ethan rested, the quiet under the oak tree was broken only by the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant chirping of birds. He took another slow sip of water, feeling his strength truly returning. He glanced at Noah, who was looking up at the canopy of leaves, a peaceful expression on his face. You know, this is my favorite part of the park, Noah said, his voice soft, almost like he was talking to himself. This old oak has seen so much. I always feel like it's guarding the forest, keeping watch. Ethan nodded, looking up too. It's beautiful, he agreed. I love how the light comes through the leaves now, not so harsh. He thought back to the golden sunbeams he had enjoyed earlier that morning, a memory that now felt far away. It's a different kind of beauty when the sun is high, Noah mused. You learn to appreciate the shade, the cool spots, even more. What do you like most about hiking, Ethan? Ethan thought for a moment. I like finding quiet places, he began, where it's just me and nature. I love seeing the little things like a ladybug or a flower I haven't seen before, and the sounds, the wind in the trees, the water in the creek. He smiled, remembering his earlier joys. It makes me feel calm and happy. Noah listened with a warm smile. I know exactly what you mean, he said. For me, it's the feeling of discovery, even on trails I've walked 100 times. There's always something new if you look closely enough. A bird's nest, a deer track, or even just the way the moss grows on a rock. He paused, then continued, and I love helping people enjoy it safely. It's a special place, and it's important to respect it. They talked for a while longer, sharing stories of trails they'd hiked, animals they'd seen, and the simple wonders of the natural world. Ethan told Noah about a family of tiny frogs he once spotted by a pond, and Noah shared a memory of watching a hawk build its nest high in a tree. It felt easy, comfortable, as if they had known each other for a long time. The shared love for nature wove a quiet thread between them, making the silence that fell sometimes just as pleasant as their words. Ethan had started the day alone, but now, under the watchful oak, he felt a friendly connection. As their conversation flowed easily, Ethan felt something new bloom inside him. It wasn't the warmth of the sun, which was still hot outside their shady haven, but a different kind of warmth. It was the feeling of being truly seen and understood by someone he had only just met. Noah wasn't just a park volunteer doing his job. He was a person who genuinely cared, and who shared a quiet joy for the same things Ethan loved. Ethan watched Noah as he spoke, his eyes kind and crinkly at the corners when he smiled. Noah spoke of the forest with such respect and love, describing the way a certain bird song could tell you about the weather, or how different trees told stories of the years gone by. Ethan realized that Noah wasn't just patrolling the park. He was a part of it, a guardian not just of the trails, but of the peace and wonder they held. It was strange, Ethan thought. He had always liked hiking alone, enjoying his own thoughts and the quiet beauty of nature. He hadn't realized how much he might appreciate sharing that experience, even in a small way, with someone else. Noah's calm presence, his gentle humor, and his easy way of talking made Ethan feel safe and comfortable in a way he hadn't felt since he'd started to feel unwell. He felt a special connection, a bond that seemed to grow stronger with each story they shared. It was more than just gratitude for the help Noah had given him. It was a feeling of shared spirit, like finding a lost piece of a puzzle. He had come to the park seeking solitude, but he had found something unexpectedly more. Noah picked up a fallen leaf, turning it over in his fingers. "Every leaf has its own story, doesn't it?" he said, looking at Ethan. "Just like every person on these trails." Ethan nodded slowly, understanding exactly what Noah meant. His own story on this trail had taken an unexpected turn, and Noah was now a part of it. The memory of his dizziness and fear was fading, replaced by the comforting feeling of Noah's presence. This connection, this gentle kindness, felt like a gift, a warm glow deep inside him that was far more lasting than the sun's bright rays. It was personal, surprising, and very, very welcome. After a while, Ethan pushed himself up from the soft grass, feeling completely clear-headed and much stronger. The cool cloth still rested on his forehead, but the intense heat was no longer a heavy burden. He took a deep breath, and the air, though still warm, felt clean and refreshing. The forest seemed to hum with life again, no longer oppressive. He looked at Noah, who was packing up his first aid kit, his movements calm and efficient. "I'm feeling much better now, Noah," Ethan said, a sincere smile spreading across his face. "Really, thank you. You have no idea how scared I was for a bit there." Noah looked up, his smile gentle. "That's good to hear, Ethan. It's important to listen to your body, especially out here. The mountains aren't going anywhere, so there's always time to rest." He put his backpack on, adjusting the straps. Ethan stood up fully, testing his legs. They felt steady and strong again. As he looked around at the peaceful forest, he realized something profound. What had started as a scary, difficult moment, being overcome by the heat and feeling utterly helpless, had changed into something else entirely. Because of Noah's quick, kind help, and then their quiet conversation, the memory wouldn't be one of fear, but of unexpected care. Noah's actions weren't just about giving water or finding shade. They were about a human connection, a gentle hand reaching out when one was most vulnerable. It wasn't something Ethan had expected to find on his solo hike. He had set out for solitude, but had found a deep sense of belonging, a feeling that someone in the world truly looked out for others. The sun still shone brightly, but its harshness was now softened by the memory of Noah's shadow and his steady presence. This experience, once a potential disaster, now felt like a gentle lesson, a reminder that even in moments of struggle, kindness can appear from unexpected places and turn everything around. It would be a story he would always remember, not for the heat or the dizziness, but for the quiet, thoughtful care of a stranger named Noah. It had turned into something personal, a warm spot in his heart that had nothing to do with the sun's rays. Ethan felt completely ready to hike again, but the idea of continuing alone didn't hold the same appeal it had that morning. He looked at Noah, who stood patiently, ready to continue his patrol. "Noah," Ethan began, a thought forming in his mind. "Are you heading back towards the trailhead anytime soon?" Noah looked at his watch. "I was going to check on the far loop, but with this heat, it might be better to head back to the visitor center. It's probably a good idea for you to get out of the direct sun for a while longer, too. Would you mind if I walk back with you?" Ethan asked, feeling a little shy but hopeful. "I mean, if it's not out of your way, I'd really appreciate the company." Noah's face broke into a warm smile. "Not at all, Ethan. I'd be glad for the company. It's always nice to have someone to share the trail with." And so, they began their walk back, no longer two strangers on separate paths, but two companions. The sun still shone brightly, but now Ethan walked with a new awareness, pointing out a flash of blue from a jay or the interesting pattern of a spiderweb. Noah, in turn, shared more facts about the plants and animals they saw, telling Ethan which berries were safe to eat and which were not, and how to spot the signs of different forest creatures. Their steps were steady and comfortable. The path seemed shorter, the air felt lighter, and even the heat didn't feel as heavy as it had before. They talked about everything and nothing, from their favorite snacks to the best time of year to see the wildflowers bloom. Ethan found himself laughing easily at Noah's gentle jokes, and Noah listened intently as Ethan described his dream of hiking a famous long-distance trail one day. The silence between them was no longer the empty quiet of solitude, but a comfortable, shared peace. Ethan realized that this unexpected friendship was far more rewarding than reaching any hidden waterfall alone. The kindness of a stranger had not only saved him from a difficult situation, but it also opened his eyes to a new kind of joy on the trail. As the trees began to thin and the sounds of the parking lot grew closer, Ethan felt a small pang of sadness that their walk was coming to an end. This day, which had started with a simple solo adventure and turned into a moment of fear, was now ending with the gentle warmth of a new connection. He knew he would never forget Noah, the kind volunteer who had taught him that sometimes the most important discoveries on a hike aren't found in a hidden spot, but in the unexpected company of another person.